We'll call this meeting of the Charter Review Committee to order. Rich Smith will not be here this evening. He has requested just an update after everything is all done. We should have the minutes of the February 10th meeting in front of you. Are there any changes, questions, matters for debate?
I make a motion to approve the February 10th meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any other discussion?
Nope.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, 4-0. We'll do a quick update on public outreach. I spoke with Sean Riley, who's the moderator. He is all in favor of us having a little display in the lobby of the gymnasium auditorium area, where we can basically, one thought I had was have 4 or 5 large papers on the wall of the weight room, and then have some sticky notes on the table in front of it and say, what ideas do you have about how to improve town government? And kind of let them freeform a bit. And just post things, and we'll see if we get anything with some similar themes. We can have some information for them. We can pass out the survey, which I have. Like I said, I just didn't get in time before this meeting. But that will go out soon as well. And so we'll have 1 or 2 of us manning that table, and just let people know what we're up to, give them ways to take the survey. Give them an opportunity to leave little post-its with their thoughts, bring general awareness that we're doing this. Lisa, do you have any capabilities of printing large things?
No.
Okay.
Just the like 11 by 17 is
Okay.
the biggest we go.
I just want to get some sort of sign to say, Charter Review Commission, or something that we can hang, or what should we change about Abington, or something like that, just to get people's attention as they walk in.
I'll paint one. If you'd like.
What would be a good message to get people, how should Abington improve? What can we do different? Something along those lines.
Like help us improve your government, or
Help us improve Abington, maybe?
yeah.
Okay. Could you look into figure out a way that we can get something that just people could see? I mean, I don't know how big it needs to be, but more than just hanging a piece of paper out on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll volunteer to help work the table at town meeting.
Okay. So
Which is-
a large poster, do you want to go with help us improve Abington, or
Yeah,
you
we'll go with that. Keep it simple.
help us improve Abington?
And then I'll have basically 5 large pieces of paper with some topics up in the top and some sticky notes, and people can leave their thoughts as they're coming in.
Notes.
We'll take it out of the budget for the commission.
Yeah.
We couldn't make a project
We'll chip in.
Yeah.
art class or something.
I don't know if we have enough time to.
Is it April?
April
May-
4th?
Why
I
did I
just
think it
saw
was
the
May
other.
2nd?
Because usually we've been having it closer to May. But this year, Scott decided to crack the whip, and yep, April 4th, I believe.
Oh,
is
yeah,
the-
April 4th.
Yeah, that's what I have too. Holy cow.
So
Monday,
it's-
April 4th,
Yeah, so it's not that far away. And I think
town meeting. At, what do they do it at 6:30?
Town meeting?
Might-
6:30 and then regular meeting at 7?
I think that sounds right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so we'll have copies of the survey. Like I said, we'll have some sticky notes. We'll have, if anyone else can work the table, that'd be great. Again, it's just, 6 to 6:30 or something as people are coming in. I think that'd be helpful. And the moderator also said if I can get my act together, we can put in if the warrant hasn't already been printed, we can put a QR code on the warrant itself that people could scan while they're sitting there, or we can just hand out a slip of paper with a QR code on it that they can, that links over to the survey as well.
How do we get that QR code? Where does that come from?
So once the survey is posted online, once we have a link, we can then go to, there's a couple different services you can go
Oh,
through.
really?
Yeah.
And you plug in the link and it gives you a unique QR code
I see.
that you can then use.
Yeah, you can just copy and paste them and, yeah.
Oh,
Any other questions, thoughts about outreach for town meeting?
No, do we want to have Sean make an announcement? By then it'll be too late.
We can make sure that however we pass out the QR code that he makes an
Yeah.
announcement, either
Okay.
that it's on the back of your agenda,
yeah,
that there's a
okay.
slip as you come in, whatever that method is.
And maybe he could just do a little, you know, we're endeavoring to do a review of the charter, and if you all could help us.
so we would also want to have a large QR code that people could scan right there.
Yes, that would be a good point as well. As they're walking in, have another piece of paper with it on there. That would be helpful. All right. We don't have any guests this evening. So I guess we can hop right into the charter. Oh, one thing that I did send around, and this will become a regular feature, I think, is this master list of all the changes we've discussed. So thanks to Lisa's excellent notes, excellent minutes. I've been able to go through, pull out everything we've talked about, and put it on a list that we can then also host on the website so people can see what we're talking about. And then it's a good reference point. So one thing we can do is, if you don't mind, take a couple minutes, if you have it in front of you, just to make sure that it's accurate. So for instance, I know some of the ones that I proposed, but, you know, for instance, 313, the recall process, I can't remember if it was Pete or Will who brought that up, and I couldn't remember what the issue is 10 versus 20 days, because I searched the text of it and I couldn't identify what it was, so I don't know if any of you remember what that discussion was about.
Earlier, before the meeting, somebody said that the fire chief is actually civil service, not the police chief. 5-1.
He is.
Yep.
The police chief is not civil service.
Yes, so I think that's the question.
First page, 5-1.
Yeah, who brought that up? Do you remember who brought that up originally? All?
Oh, yeah.
As to whether or not he should be civil service?
Yeah, so right now, he is not civil service, that's why it has the NA. I'll just put currently is not.
But I don't believe there's a term limit on his.
Yep, and that's the following one, the contracts.
Yeah.
Right.
So, police chief is not currently civil service, and then, so the idea of the language would be, there shall be a police chief who shall be appointed in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 31 of the MGLs, which is the civil service law. I think that's a draft language of what we're talking about, of course, we finalized. The one below it is,
So that should say fire chief as well, is that it?
well, the fire chief
5-1.
currently is.
Oh, yeah, so,
So we're only
I see.
changing the language under the police
I see.
Is there,
section.
I just don't remember why they were talking about doing it civil service.
I don't either.
Because I went through the police chief selection process,
Yeah.
and based on that, I really think, as far as I can tell, you would be limited in who you could select. And a number of things came out during the search process that people who we thought might fit the mold didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if it's left the way it is, it'd probably be a better Because right now, the town manager has the authority with the selectmen being able to veto it. And he, like I said, he included town people in the selection process. And I think it worked out really well.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I'm very curious to find out why they set it up this way. There must be a reason, and I think at a future meeting, I'd like to have past chairman, Mr. Burbine, Mr. Franny, come by and see what they remember about that discussion.
but again, I think the way it is,
Yeah.
it worked very well, so.
So the question is, do you want to do the same thing with the police, with the fire chief then? Because at some point in the next few years, he's going to be hitting retirement too.
Right.
So, you know, if there's a lieutenant we want, or captain instead of a deputy chief, I don't know how it's structured, but.
Right. That would be a good idea.
All right, so just to go back in order, does anyone recall this question we had about the recall process and the 10 versus 20 days issue?
What number are you on?
This is 313.
313.
Recall.
There is no 313.
Yes, there is, right here, third one down.
Oh, recall process. Oh. Yeah, it was, depending whether you're elected or appointed, they were different, weren't they? Was that what it was?
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Okay, so then I shouldn't be listed as recall, oh wait, recall or appointment, vacancy?
Versus 20 days.
Because you can't recall appointed committee members. I think it's just elected, right?
So maybe it should be recall / removal.
Yeah, because I remember searching through the section and 10 nor 20 is in the text somewhere
For
for the recall process.
So under 313.6, if the, no. No, that's qualifying, forgot it.
Yeah, so I think that's, but I just mislabeled it, and it's not recall process, it's appointment.
Yeah.
Am I working with the wrong version? Is this the one you found? I think I have the wrong one.
Yeah, 313 is recall elected officials.
So I have definition review as something that Bill brought up. Was there anything specific in there?
No, I don't think we got to specifics. We talked about one specific at the last meeting, which of course I'm not remembering right now. No. I just thought as we were going along, if there were things that,
Qualified officer and
Okay.
not admitting of delay.
Oh, okay.
yeah, like a qualified officer of the town.
Yeah.
And that.
Not admitting of delay?
I didn't write down what section that's in though, so I'm not sure where that came from.
It's
It
one
was toward the end. Probably after section 4 dash, oh, must be in 4 dash.
4-5.
4-5?
4-5.
I need to look up where the board minute approval language is.
7.9 maybe?
So I think we started this conversation, but may not have gone very far. Language is kind of fuzzy about how minutes get brought over to the library.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's the board's responsibility to send them over.
Mhm.
I assumed that they were collected by the clerk, and the clerk didn't.
No,
No. So I guess it is in the bylaw,
right.
in the charter, but it's not something that has been very well followed
No.
by every smaller committee. I certainly wasn't aware of it until looking into it.
Yep.
I have some language that might help strengthen it and clarify it that we can talk about in a little bit, but
Okay.
yeah, that's certainly something to keep in mind.
What section is that?
I think 7.9 is procedures. But
And it doesn't really get to.
For meetings?
Library's not responsible, so who is, you know?
but I could be, that might be the posting.
And I really think there should be somewhere that a copy gets
Oh,
to
yes.
the town clerk to get put into
Yeah,
the online.
right. I agree. So-
Because I think both agenda and the minutes should be there.
Right, I agree with you on that. The 7.9.3, Lisa, I think is rules and journal. There's some, such minutes shall be voted on and approved within 60 days.
So he wanted like 75 just to be safe.
Yeah, Henry wanted
Oh.
75, but I think that's where, to your point, there shall be a public record kept available in a place convenient to the public, and copies shall be kept, like, we almost are gonna want language like they should be submitted to the town clerk, who will make them available digitally and upon request or something. I don't know about the language right now, but you're right, you should have easy access to them online. Just scan a PDF up there.
Because if you go to the library, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, it's a hit or miss, right?
Mhm.
So they would really just need to be posted on the town website.
Right.
I think that the website is managed by one person, not the town clerk.
I know, but I don't know, I feel because it's a public record.
Like for a timestamp kind of thing.
Yeah, either for a time, but at least it's somebody that all the committees should be able to interact with.
Yeah, so.
You're already posting agendas through the clerk's
Yeah,
office.
with the new website, my understanding is going to be more easily accessible for like committee chairs to be able to go in and post their stuff there, and they won't have to rely on
Oh,
someone in the selectman's office.
agenda
Or,
and minutes.
yeah, so like technically I have the access stuff now, I just have to do it, or go back and find it. Maybe we can start posting stuff. That's why I wanted to put this chart together, was to be able to start dumping stuff onto the website. But yeah, I mean, that's should be one of the committee policies is who, right, you're not required to, under open meeting law and public records, to post these things online. It's strongly suggested and encouraged. That's one area where I think we should go above and beyond and say, no, this needs to be a priority as part of the daily business of boards and committees in this town.
Right.
It's not a nice to do, it's a no, you must.
And I guess my thinking, right now, it has to be in the library, right? Well, if you put it online and somebody doesn't have access to a computer, they can go to the library
Yeah.
and use theirs. So it's not like they can't get it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's better access. I
Yes.
agree.
So Boston Public Library does a great service regarding digitization of things. Is there another service that could take, I mean, there's 20 years worth of minutes sitting in the library of scanning them and filing them and,
Yeah, I mean, there's things like libraries use companies like New England Micrographics. These are the companies that used to microfilm everything. Now they're in the digitization business.
Yeah.
So they do it with newspapers. You bundle off newspapers that could digitize it. You could do the same thing with minutes in bulk.
okay.
You might be able to do it through the library, through the Boston Public Library, less expensively, but
Yeah.
it depends on how busy they are.
I don't know if that's a project that would be eligible for community preservation funds under the historical section.
That is up for debate. There's actually a what do you call it? There's a bill in the State House right now specifically speaking to expanding the Community Preservation Act to include more library clerk document projects.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, because some towns have done them, and then some towns have been challenged by the Attorney General about it, so it's kind of a gray area right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah, I know, it's,
I think despite the number of notes there, it's really not that much.
no, I think it would be a fairly
It's like
expensive
get
project.
digitized in a
Yeah.
very quick manner,
Yeah.
as long as it is properly prepared.
Right, and if you do it through the Boston Public Library, it's pretty much costless.
Yeah. It's good to know.
Yeah.
So the very last one that I added was something that came up at the most recent Board of Selectmen meeting. Basically, there's been some discussion about the role of the Board of Selectmen in the budget process. And in some ways, the language is clear that it's the town manager drives the ship, drives the bus, however you want to, whatever analogy you want to use. But it's with the advice and consent of the Board of Selectmen. That's the key phrase, with the advice and consent. And so the board gets, I think, semi-regular updates from the town manager as part of his town manager's report. But what hasn't happened much in the past couple of years, and I don't want this to be a criticism of anyone, I think it's just, we're working to figure out all the new rules and stuff, and there hasn't been like a budget presentation before it goes to FinCom. That's kind of my understanding. Like a full, here's the budget, here's what we're doing, these are the new positions, this is,
There has or hasn't?
has not.
Okay.
What do you
The
mean?
only problem
To the
is,
selectmen?
Yeah, like they get it in bits and pieces, but they don't get like a full 25-minute presentation. Like when the Board of Assessors come in to talk about the tax rate, there's a presentation, there's a slides, there's discussion. When the school committee approves theirs, there's a public hearing, there's a discussion, slides, the whole discussion. I don't think that's, and again, not a criticism.
right,
So, but that's what FinCom does. They meet with all the department heads.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not saying that the Board of Selectmen needs to copy what the FinCom does. I think it's more just receive the official report from the town manager saying this is what's in the budget that I'm handing to the FinCom.
Right, because by,
but the budget changes so much,
Yeah.
so often.
Yep, it does.
And it's not final until right before
Yep.
town meeting. So,
right,
So I guess this is exactly the debate, is should there be a more formal process, or is how it currently runs now appropriate? And I don't have an answer for that, but
Well,
that's a
it's-
little bit of what the discussion has been.
I'm not
So it's
quite
a-
following what you want to happen.
I don't know. I mean, that's a discussion as to whether or not there should be a change.
So
Other
I-
towns do it differently.
Do you want a joint meeting, like anytime FinCom meets to
Nope.
discuss the budget, that the
Nope.
selectmen will be there?
Not at all.
but by charter, the select board is supposed to receive a copy of the budget 30 days before FinCom.
Yes, and the question was, does that timeline work? Because now you're backing yourself up into December.
Right.
And frankly, that's too long.
Yeah, I would say.
And so it's basically not been followed
Right.
for a
30
bunch of
days.
years.
Where
Right.
does it say that, 30 days before?
6/2.
Yeah.
6/2.
Yeah. I mean, I would say 14 days is more.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thought is, again, it's not the final budget that he's presenting, but it's like,
Right.
all right, this is the official full document.
These are our expected revenues, this is what certified free cash might be, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And again, I'm not saying the board needs to meet with every department head.
Right.
Or we have an official public hearing.
No, it's just a presentation of,
There are towns, and I pulled some stuff, where there needs to be a specific report document that
Yeah.
is essentially distributed before it goes to FinCom. I don't know if that's the best way of doing it. I'm going to ask the Board of Selectmen their thoughts on how they feel it should be worked. But that's, it's come up twice in the last 2 meetings about,
as it,
yeah.
in the select board meetings?
Yeah.
Or- Yeah.
but again, everything changes.
It does, yeah, and that's part of the disclaimer.
So, I'll give you a budget,
Right,
and by the time it gets to town meeting, it's totally different.
Yep.
So, you know,
That's absolutely the argument. Other side is, I could say we're gonna hire 6 positions, and then by the time they get through the review, it's 3 positions and more money into capital or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's-
Yeah, I think it's more informational, so the select board knows where, and they probably do, but in a less formal way, like where the jumping off point is before the process itself starts.
Yeah.
I think it's just more informational.
Yeah, so I'm not, at this point, I don't want to take a position until
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hear from the board of
Yeah.
selectmen, and I would do that after town meeting, let the dust kind of settle.
Right.
And say, and I'd ask the FinCom too, what's the best process going forward that makes sense?
Because it's the town manager's budget, and it's always the town manager's budget.
Yes.
And it's just FinCom can agree or disagree with the recommendations. I mean, the sausage gets made,
Yeah.
and we all know how that gets done, but,
So where does it actually say when FinCom gets the budget?
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's in the bylaws, but I don't know where in the bylaws,
I need to
right?
print the bylaws out so I can look at it.
Could I just ask this question, and maybe none of us know the answer to this either, and my history's murky, but how long ago was it that we had a stronger selectmen group, that the selectmen were more involved with the budget than the town manager? And was this language kind of a bridge from taking financial powers from the selectmen and moving it more towards the town manager? Do you think that has anything to do with this?
When we changed to from town administrator to town manager, the end of the 2004?
Okay, I just wonder if that's,
Charter?
I wonder if there's a history behind this, that like, we didn't want to ruffle the selectmen's feathers so much that we kept them involved in the, again, I'm just
I think, yeah,
guessing, maybe there's some other history to
Yeah,
this.
right after, 2004, I think you're right, because
4 and then 14.
the years before that, there was apparently a number of financial irregularities.
Oh, yeah.
This is before I moved to town.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
Pete, maybe you have a better memory, Lisa. It was like multiple reports from the state DOR about just not having their stuff together and not being able to find money and poor practice. And I think that's when it came to have an official, like, appointed professional town treasurer collector. I think that's when we went to a strong town manager versus board of selectmen, a strong board of selectmen.
I don't want to belabor this point if we want to, but the 2004 charter,
Yeah.
this is the language in the 2004. So within the time fixed by bylaw, before the annual town meeting is to convene, the town manager, after consultation with the Board of Selectmen, shall submit to the Finance Committee a proposed balanced operating budget for the ensuing fiscal year with an accompanying budget message and supporting documents. So I wonder if this was, so it was going from consultation to presentation, and maybe we're beyond that even. So it's an interesting point to look.
The change was definitely from town administrator
Yeah.
to town manager.
Yeah, so the one before the 2004 is probably even different.
All
more
right, so it
different.
says right here, a draft budget shall be submitted to the Finance Committee on or before January 15th of each year.
What's that you're looking at?
Bylaws, which, like I said, I probably should print out just to have them. Preparations of budget estimates, 67.5.
60, section 67.5?
Yep, -5.
And tell me what it says again?
It says a draft budget shall be submitted to the Finance Committee on or before January 15th of each year in preparation of the annual town meeting.
January 15th.
Yep. And then basically that the FinCom and town manager coordinate the presentation and format a final budget for the town meeting.
So December 15th?
Would be when they would have to have, something to the Board of Selectmen,
Yeah.
which is very early.
in the wrong time of year.
Yeah, so I mean, it might just very much be, when they submit to the FinCom, that's when the board gets its official report too. Or something like that, I don't know.
Well, they would just get the same report, the same budget FinCom gets.
Yep. Or that first FinCom meeting is a joint meeting with the FinCom and Board of Selectmen. I don't know.
Right. Could be, after you talk to the select.
Yes, yeah.
So you said this has come up a couple times already. Do the selectmen feel they are not involved enough in the budget process?
There's one in particular who feels that I think feels that way. Others feel, well, we kind of get it in bits and pieces throughout the year, and if you have any feelings, you can always bring it up. But then at the end, there was definitely a feeling of the way things currently are formatted doesn't make sense. That 30 days before it's submitted to the FinCom, just that timeline just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's kind of out in left field.
Yeah.
And like you said, so much changes in 30 days about a budget, it's just.
So the awkward part is, this is the town charter. This is the rule of law in the town, and it's not being followed. I don't think anyone's gonna file a lawsuit, but I mean, we don't casually want to start ignoring town charter rules. We're already doing it a little too often, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to see what other towns, how they have that worded.
yeah.
That's good.
So, I will look into that. And I'll take some budget sections from other town charters and forward them
Okay.
as I find them.
All right. Did we finish our kind of walkthrough of the current charter? I don't think we did.
I don't think we got it.
I think we actually got Article 6, the finance and fiscal procedures.
Right. Which is what we're.
So, does everyone have it in front of you?
Say it again, what section?
Section 6.1 of the charter.
6.1.
All right, fiscal year, that's in statute. And then, so we get into 6.2, and that's where we get into, shall submit 30 days prior to the date budget required to be submitted to finance, which is currently January 15th. A written proposed budget for town government. So, I mean, it says very clearly that they need to get the full one. Maybe they do, I don't know. Yeah, it says record it with an accompanying budget message and supporting documents. And general summary for the town website. So that's kind of A, B, and C. It makes sense, I just don't know if the timeline makes sense. 6.3.
Yeah.
We have any languages here? I mean, basically, it should just be a big packet that the board gets.
Yeah, it's 45. You're right.
It's strange as how much, because I read 4 or 5 different charters, and there's a lot of similar language in a lot of them.
There really is. Yeah. The thing I find interesting about this, though, is is the general summary of the budget being posted on the website? That's in
Let's look.
623. I can't remember. But also, I have a handful of charters on my bookmarks, and some of them get down to at least 120 days prior to the start of the fiscal year, the town administrator shall, but it's, the rest of the language is pretty similar. Some of them get specifics into like surplus revenue and all that, but
don't immediately see it, but I'm not gonna say that it's not there.
Right.
I just don't immediately see
Yeah,
it.
I could have looked too, right.
And so when it says budget message, it doesn't say, it has to be a presentation in a public meeting. It can be very
Right.
much just a document that is then handed out and posted.
Is it under the town meeting?
That's what I look right
Yeah.
now.
Okay, yeah.
I see the warrant. No budget and finance information. This is thrilling footage for people.
It is, it's great. Any warnings about going to the site?
FY '22, that's the current year.
Okay.
So I don't see the '23.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, at least we have,
Yeah.
it's not fiscal 17 or something.
Yeah, but it's not like there's not an official report. There's
Okay.
some, basically it's what you see at the town meeting warrant, which
Yeah,
it's basic, it's not a lot of details.
Yep.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I take that, I just said back, it is there, draft 2023 budget.
Great.
But again, it's the 8-page spreadsheet that we see in the warrant,
Mhm.
which is not, I don't think,
It's not line item.
it's not kind of what they wanted, which is a larger summary,
Right.
a narrative
Right.
of what's in it, what's changing, that sort of thing. So it
Well, it
is
doesn't-
up there.
The charter doesn't specify that.
And it just says message. Well, it says describe important features of the budget.
Yeah.
Indicate any major variations. So
Yeah,
It could.
to me, that's a narrative.
So what are you looking at now?
That's a budget message, 6.3.
Both in fiscal terms, in terms of work programs, financial policies. I mean, yeah, it's very much more just an 8-page spreadsheet. This is a narrative.
So you feel that what is on the website now doesn't meet the existing charter
I would
specifications?
not call it a budget message, but that could just be my opinion.
Budget message.
I mean, maybe it's a general summary. I mean, that's what it says. Shall provide for a general summary of the proposed budget on the town's website. I mean,
Yeah, so it might be that we change the charter to fit what we're actually practically doing, or we talk
Yeah.
about getting things in line with the charter. So I think that's a further conversation with the people involved, right?
yeah. And so then you get into 6.6, the capital improvement program, that they need to have a capital improvement program presented to the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee 6 months before the start of the fiscal year, so January 1st.
Right.
And that it's a 5-year plan, and that didn't happen for a bunch of years.
And that's fair. I mean, I feel like those dates and those times for capital are pretty fair.
And I know they're working on it now, they've made a lot of progress, and they're doing some good work with that. But for a bunch of years, that didn't happen, and again, it's a town charter not being followed. And then audits, annual audit. I'd be curious to read that. All right. So I think with that, post-town meeting, we'll ask the FinCom and Board of Selectmen to weigh in on, we'll provide them the language. We can do bylaws too, just so they have that. And then ask them for their thoughts on what makes sense going forward, especially the new town manager, see what he thinks works. This is now his second full budget cycle. So he'll start to have a pretty good idea of what makes sense. So general provisions. What time is it? All right. Charter changes, and this is why we're here.
Right.
I'm not sure what general terms means in 7.3. but we can ask council. Well, that's interesting. Computations of time. In computing time under the charter, it specifically says that 7 days does not include weekends or holidays. Oh, if more than 7 days, then every day is computed. That's really weird. This is 7.5.
Yeah.
This is kind of confusing.
7 days or less.
Let's ask if that's standard or if that's just some weird thing.
Yeah, maybe we want to consider business days. Just leave it at that.
Exactly.
Number of business days.
All right, and then seven six is number and gender, words including singular and plural extent. That's interesting. All right.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if that language has been updated by any other charters, like an inclusive language section and stuff. I don't know.
I would agree. Put that on the list.
Interesting.
All right, so charter review every 10 years, ending in the year 4, which is why we're here, so that we can have an update by 2024. 5 members chosen by town moderator. And then I think Henry brought up the bylaw review.
Right.
Right.
Yep, okay, that's there. So his thought was, the way it's currently worded, if you wait till after I think the town charter commission is done, then it's,
Yep,
basically it should happen right after it.
correct.
Okay.
So
And then-
maybe,
And then bylaw review has a deadline. They have 8 months, and that's it.
maybe concurrently has its advantages though, because both boards could meet at the same time and discuss
Yep.
who's doing what.
I'm curious how other towns do that.
Yeah, can you adopt, is the issue that we couldn't adopt bylaw changes the same, but sometimes we could not adopt bylaw changes in the same town meeting that we're adopting charter changes, because charter changes might have to go to the state. So that's why it's gotta be, it could start concurrently, but it couldn't finish concurrently. Okay.
Yep. All right, and then procedures. This might be require a little extra work. So this section is about how boards basically operate, boards and committees. Is there a specific rule when something is a board versus when something is a committee?
That's a great question. I don't know if that's a council question, I don't know.
So there's a definition we need.
That's a good one.
Because elected is school committee and planning board, Board of Health. And then committees, it's Conservation Commission. Then it's a zoning board. I mean, there's no real rhyme or reason, I think. I didn't know
Right, just how they were named.
Yeah.
Because, so, yeah, committees, boards, commissions.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's it.
Does it matter?
This is interesting. Special meetings of any multiple member body shall be held on the call of the respective chairman or by 1/3 of the members thereof, with notice delivered to the residence or place of business of each member, at least 48 hours in advance of time. So it's interesting. We can call them 1/3 of a committee could call a meeting without the permission of the chair, and then deliver the notice to their home or workplace.
Mhm. I think that's, I thought I had my open meeting law printout with me, but I don't. But I think that is something addressed in the open meeting law.
So that might need to be updated.
I'll bring that next time.
And then a petition of 50 voters could force a committee to meet. This sounds like it's real old school.
Right. Trying to find.
So, I will look into the OML and forward that section to all of you.
All right. Multiple member bodies shall be subject to applicable provisions of the open meeting law as it may be amended from time to time. That applies to subcommittees, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that might need to just be say, multiple member bodies and their subcommittees. Just to be clear, because I think at one point subcommittees weren't. Like 10 years ago, I'm not sure that they were, or it wasn't specified and there was some confusion, but. All right, then we get into rules and minutes. So each body member should determine its own rules and order of business. Minutes should be voted and approved within 60 days. Henry DiCarlo suggested making that 75 just in case there's a missed meeting because of a snowstorm or some other.
I think that's addressed in OML as well.
Is it? Okay. These rules and minutes shall be in a public record kept available in a place convenient to the public at all reasonable times. And copies shall be available in the town library. Should be kept available in the town library. It doesn't say who gets them there. So 793 needs to be, I think we're going to make that note. Majority of the members is multiple. So this is something I think I've missed. Majority of members of a multiple member
Where are
board, 795, so constitute a quorum. But no action shall be valid and binding unless ratified by the affirmative vote of the majority of the full multiple member body. So that means you have a 5-member board, 3 members can meet. But if it's a 2-to-1 vote, it doesn't count, because it's not a majority of the board.
No?
Am I reading that correctly?
Unless ratified by the affirmative vote. Yes, that's how I read that as well.
That's something to need to point out sometimes, maybe.
So using Henry DiCarlo in the library as an example, it's a 9-member board, 6 people show up for the meeting, they have a quorum, something passes 4-2, it doesn't pass.
Correct.
Yes, that's how I read that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. A lot of this speaks to that bigger conversation that we've had about onboarding of boards and board
Yep.
annual training and just reminders like these kind of things, which more people might know than we think, but it's interesting, the ins and outs. Just looking back again at the 2004 version, there's a lot more in the there's more in the procedures, but it's been the new open meeting law 792 supersedes, so they cut out things about posting agendas and all. So the OML replaced a bunch of previous language.
Then we get into so 710 talks about it gets into who appoints a committee, whether it's the moderator or the board of selectmen. If it's administrative executive, it's a board of selectmen. If it's more legislative, it's the moderator. But then you get into 711, which is notice of vacancies. So 711 and 712 have some language we probably want to take a look at, particularly 711, because I think the language varies between that and if it's an elected board, and it leads to some confusion. It also doesn't say if the board doesn't like the slate they have, what happens next. Does it have to be another 14 days? Do you have to have a whole new slate? Does it carry over at all? So there's some, I like the Board of Selectmen's opinion on vacancies, because it's been a real bear a number of times this past year.
This is not somewhere else, right? We've had kind of conversation about this, but we have.
There's some language elsewhere as well, I think, with committees.
Yeah, this is the 10 days, and somewhere else it says something about 20 days.
It's different than recall.
Yes.
It's vacancy in office, maybe, but that's something different.
Yeah, so then you go back to 3.4, and it talks about vacancy in elected member body or an appointed. So there's definitely a duplicative language there that we need to iron out.
3-4.
Yeah. I'm sorry, no. Where is it? 314. It specifically talks about vacancy in.
Is that just the clerk, moderator, and selectmen?
There exists a vacancy in elected member body board. Yes.
Yes.
So, but still, there's a
Yes.
different process for the elected member board
Right.
compared to the appointed.
Yeah.
So probably should just align it a little bit better unless there's a specific reason not to.
Yeah. You should align it, I mean, there's different rules for going to the ballot eventually, right? But that for the elected, but the rest of it leading up to that point. And we had notes and questions on that 314 about didn't we, about who calls the actual meeting and all?
Who runs the meeting?
Right, okay, yeah, that's coming back to me. Thanks.
As far as it's never been an issue before, where the elected board says no, votes for one person, and the
Right.
board of selectmen votes for another person, then,
Right.
all right, who is it?
Right. And didn't we have a conversation about like if depends on the size of the board,
Yeah,
like who, you could automatically have a majority to
Yeah.
overrule the other board?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, like if there's a vacancy in the Board of Library Trustees.
Right.
They
And
win.
all 8 members go
They
into the
win.
Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yeah,
Who's chairing that meeting? Is it the member of the 8-member board, or is it the
Right.
chair of the 5-member board?
Right.
They could talk over each other and have 2 completely different elections, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that needs to be spelled out.
Loss of office, excessive absence. I know this has popped up a little bit. Fail to attend 4 or more consecutive meetings or 1/2 of all meetings in a calendar year. The remaining members of the multiple member committee may, by majority vote, notify the appointing authority. Okay. Want to make sure it was like a majority voting, didn't need all of them, because that could be another problem. Okay. I think that's the last bit. No transition.
Yeah, there's one little thing for 8, right?
Yeah. I think this is all very much, yeah. Some dates may have to update it just because it's reflected this is a new one, but. Wait a minute. The trustees of Veterans Memorials are no longer elected, they're appointed?
What section are you on?
8-4. I don't remember that coming up. I could be wrong.
Say it again? So,
I thought
any elected incumbents from...
the trustees of Veterans Memorials are still elected, but apparently they're appointed.
Shall serve the first appointee.
Because that committee is not on the website at all.
It shall be filled in accordance with the applicable provisions of this charter. What? When,
Because you went from an elected Parks Board,
mhm,
now it's an appointed.
right, but the trustees.
Because I can't find a list of who's on it right now on the website.
The Veterans Memorial?
I thought they got rid of it for some reason.
You can't because they own property in town. They own the land that the Legion's on.
Town does.
They do, and they lease it to the town.
Hmm?
They lease it to the town.
Right.
But the Veterans Memorial Committee owns it, like it's in the deed.
I have to look at it.
Yeah, it's weird because my wife's on the playground committee,
Uh-huh.
and the playground is on the land owned by the American Legion. Like that's one big parcel of land. So to do anything, they need to go get permission from the Veterans Memorial Commission. Because they technically own it. But it was a weird arrangement where it's under the care and maintenance of the town, but deed is technically still held by the veterans. That's my understanding.
So the Veterans Memorial trustees own the American Legion and lease it to the town?
I forget the exact language, but I mean, I don't know, it's not really applicable to what we're talking about. I think it was just more of an aside.
Yeah, but
Because that
But it-
used to be a high school.
Yes. And then I think in 1922, 21, 22,
Somewhere
post
in
World
there.
War One,
Yeah.
they gave them the land. They sold the land, basically. Oh, you can go into the assessor's records. That's what it is. We're in the assessor's database, and it tells you that. That's what it was. All right. So that's our review of the Abington charter. Lisa, there were a couple things from Rockland I think you wanted to bring to our attention.
I have, it's one of the pages I gave to you, the town administrator language from Rockland's. Although we have a town manager, not an administrator, I like the way his qualifications are worded here. Because Abington requires a bachelor's degree.
Yep.
I like the whole town administrator shall be appointed solely on the basis of executive, administrative, and municipal experience. His education should consist of a bachelor's degree in public administration preferred, but in absence of either a 10-year actual work experience, 5 years progressively more responsible. I think that, I like the idea that it's not solely based on education, that a person might be incredibly talented and perfect for the job and not have, even a bachelor's degree. That was my point with that one.
Yep. Nope, that's a good one.
Although I think education is important, I don't think it should be the deciding factor. Somebody might have an amazing resume,
You could require they obtain one within a certain,
could require that,
get credits towards, or however you want to work it.
sure. Work toward it. Yeah, I don't think requiring a bachelor's degree, I think related work experience in some cases is much better. And the others, there was a reason, the budget, Board of Library Trustees and the powers. Oh, I know. And I haven't looked at it since I sent this out. Is when the library people were here,
Yes.
they asked to add the two words "and employees" to the
Yep.
the charter. Oh, I forget where that was. Library trustees. Section 3-8, Board of Library Trustees. The Board of Library Trustees shall appoint the library director in consultation with the town manager, who shall act in the capacity of the principal personnel officer of the town. So they wanted us to add and employees. The Board of Library Trustees shall appoint the library director and employees in consultation with the town manager, who shall act in the capacity of the principal personnel officer of the town. So from my understanding of their meeting with us is that they want the library director to have control of their employees,
Yes.
which I totally understand, but aside from the school department and the water department, because it's a joint waterworks with Rockland, this would be the only town board that has control of their own employees, and the town manager would not be the final determining factor in their employment.
And the employees of the housing authority is the other one.
The housing authority is under the control of Brockton Housing Authority
Yep.
now.
Yep.
So my point with the three sections of the budget that the charter that I sent out, powers of the town manager, board of library trustees, and the budget, is that, for one thing, if the library director had total control of their employees, that would really kind of take away of the town manager's control of the budget as it relates to the library.
The town manager, to my understanding, the town manager still negotiates the union contract, though.
Yes, and so from my understanding of the conversation with them was that they want the town manager out of it, and the library director controls the negotiations.
That wasn't my understanding.
No?
I'll have to,
Well, that's
we could
good.
clarify it. That wasn't my understanding.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I misunderstood then. So the and employees
Was-
would still, so I'm not sure then, I don't see the point of adding that if that wasn't their point.
I think I could be wrong, and we can clarify. I thought that, my understanding was that the library director would appoint library employees.
Right.
Right, that was it.
Independent of the town manager.
Right.
So then,
I think that's the current practice.
Yeah, it's unwritten.
I think that every
Understanding.
department should have that control if we're going to give it to one.
Yeah, the weird part was they said that basically it's the unwritten understanding that this is how it currently works. So what's the real story?
Actually, the understanding is the other three sections of the charter that give the power to the town manager. Budget-wise,
Yeah.
and
Well, yeah, I mean-
just that he is in Abington anyway, right now, we don't have a human resources
Right.
department, so he is the human resource officer.
Chief personnel officer. or
There
whatever
you
it
go.
is.
Yeah, it's, maybe we have to dig deeper, because I imagine, I think it's a process, I imagine it's a process thing, right? Because I think the town manager probably still signs the final personnel papers.
Yes, currently, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
no matter who, right, even with the
Uh-huh.
library. But I think it's the hiring process is all done through the library versus through town hall. I'm imagining that's what the,
With final approval of the town manager. This would, if you add "and employees," that would be taking,
I don't know, I don't know if that's the current practice or not, but yeah.
Let me go back and revisit.
Yeah.
But you can ask for her to submit something in writing or something, just so
Right.
we can have it.
that would be good to clarify what their intent is by adding that.
Yeah.
Like, what do they specifically want to see happen?
Yeah, if they want to change something or try to codify something that's a current practice, that'd be good to know, right?
Just be respectful of your time because we are getting a little past 8. I handed out I looked through a few different charters. Marshfield's, I won't go through everything right now, but Marshfield has some language about vacancies. They kick it back basically to the MGLs. I don't know if that's up to date or best practice, but that's what they do. Yeah, it's weird, like, if you look at 5.3, the budget message, it's basically word for word what we currently have, so at some point, someone copied from somebody. And then, but on 5.5 says the board and the FinCom basically holds a joint public hearing on the proposed budget. Just as an example of something. Chelmsford had a couple of interesting pieces. One thing that it does, and same for Needham, which I also printed out something. It doesn't say the Board of Selectmen can, if for instance the zoning board asks for something to be included on the town meeting warrant, the Board of Selectmen doesn't have permission to take it off or say, no, we're not going to. And Abington's does, and I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not. But that's something that jumped out at me.
You're looking at Chelmsford?
Yep.
Where is that?
211. So it says the select board shall receive all petitions which are addressed to it from any elected town officer or multiple member body, any appointed multiple member body acted by a majority of its members, any 10 voters, any other person as authorized by bylaw, but it doesn't say that they can punt stuff off. And I believe they do have that power in Abington. Warrant articles. Yeah, the Board of Selectmen shall have discretion as to whether to include on a warrant any town meeting request or petition filed by the town clerk or moderator or any elected or appointed committee. So we give the board a little extra power there. Back to Chelmsford, they have a larger planning board. They have some language regarding temporary absences and vacancy in office, as well as some budget process language, but I think it's pretty similar. And then Needham, very quickly, specifically talks about special committees and having to, when the work is done, deposit with the town librarian the working papers and other material gathered and compiled. It specifically says this is what you do with it once you're done with your work. So I think there's some language in there to use. Also some different language on the operating budget, how that works. And then I also like the fact that they prohibit coasting in streets still. So no riding your bikes quickly down streets in Needham.
I wanted to.
You can't curse.
No coasting. It does, it's no coasting. Anyway, anybody have any other things they wanted to bring up? All right. This was a lot. So we have our orders for town meeting, because we will not be meeting again before town meeting. We'll plan on meeting maybe a week after.
Okay.
So we know what we have to do. I'll maybe reach out to you, one of you by, one-on-one if they need something. But we'll have the survey go online. We'll have Lisa make us some handcrafted wood signs.
No.
Glazed with
Poster board.
gold leaf.
No, bedazzle.
Yeah,
Bedazzle.
Pizzazz, the other one. And then I'll man the table if
Yeah,
anyone else wants to as well.
I'm hoping I'll be available.
And we can go from there. And hopefully we get some good feedback. And then once that's done, we can start to call in some specific groups to talk about some of the things we've highlighted at this point. I obviously get the feeling that we're still not on a lot of people's radars.
Yeah.
So we'll try another round of shaking some trees and get some people's attention, hopefully a town meeting and otherwise, so that we don't get into November and all of a sudden people start saying, what do we think about this?
At town, I guess we should set up a date now, but at town meeting, we can tell them to come to our next meeting or not?
Yeah, why don't we set up the next meeting date?
Town meeting's the 4th.
What about the 14th?
Yeah.
April 14th?
Yes.
What time?
6 this time.
6.
6 it is.
All right. So our next meeting will be April 14th at 6 p.m. We'll get some invites out. Unless anybody has anything else they'd like to bring up, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.